But we have some new people on the line today, and I just want to introduce myself briefly. I'm Patty Williams. I am a previous home care agency owner here in the state of North Carolina. I had an agency for 19 and a half years. And so many of the things that I share with you all is because I have done that, been through it, and I kind of know how it affects the business. So my company, Home Care Resources Now, that is what me and my team, that's what we do. We try to provide information and resources to startups and those that are already in business so that you can do a better job with staying in compliance with your regulatory agencies as well as with your clients and employees, because you have to keep all of them happy in order to have a really good, profitable business. So I've been speaking to some clients about conducting their employee evaluations. And I will say up front that for me, this was a difficult area for me to stay on top of, because most of the time you are hiring all of your people at different times. Really, in order to have a really good, effective home care business, you need to always be hiring people. You don't ever stop hiring. You always have people coming in. You always want clients and employees coming in. However, you can have as many clients as you want to, and if you don't have people working for you, you won't be able to make any revenue off of that. So then that means if you've got all these people working, you need to evaluate them. And if you all will look in your rules and regulations, that's part of what DHSR asks you to do in your rules and regulations. It says that the performance evaluations will be done according to the agency policy and at least annually. So you may have a different way of evaluating your aides, your nurses, everyone in the agency. You may evaluate them every 6 months, or when they first get hired, you may do something every 90 days, but at least annually you need to do that. And many of you have software programs or whatever that make you aware of when something is due. But if you do not have a system that does that, I suggest that you set up some type of a chart so that you know when your employees need to be evaluated. Now, there are some employees that are going to come in and they may work for you 2 or 3 months, and at the end of that year, they're gone. I did not stop to evaluate those people. It was my ongoing employees that were there the whole time. And it may be, say you have an employee come in and they work for 9 months and they're gone. You may want to evaluate them at that time. And even if you don't do it with them, just put something in the file, about their performance or whatever. But at least once a year for every employee is what you want to shoot for. And that's what your rules say. When you were approved by DHSR, there was something in there that said you would do that once a year. So on the evaluation, some of the things you want to look at is the care plan being followed. Whether that person is an in-home aide or companion, they have a care plan. So are they following the care plan? When you go out or the nurse goes out for those supervisory visits, does the client appear safe and well adjusted? Has the client's quality of life improved? I was thinking this morning about, we had a client, it was a female, and she had really had a bad problem with urinary incontinence. So when I first went to her apartment, it was obvious. And you all know exactly what I'm saying. It was very obvious. So when I went back to visit her on her supervisory visit and to supervise my aide, if that place would have been the same, if when I came in the door, there was a certain smell that was there when I came the first time, then I would say that her quality of life had not improved. There's other things you can look at. If the place is cluttered and the aide is supposed to be helping with that, if the sink is full of dishes, you know that maybe that aide is not really helping them. And so that's something you need to address. Sometimes it is that the client has told them not to do it, because some clients are comfortable with clutter and they don't want things moved around. So you need to find out what that is and be sure that your aides are following the care plan and doing what they need to do. And then, has the client expressed any concerns to you? Hopefully, most of the time when something goes wrong in a client's home, encourage them to call you. I had an admission service agreement, and and you should have something like this too, where you notify your clients of the complaint phone number that they need to call if they have a complaint, the address, all of that needs to be in your admission paperwork. And I would share that with my clients when I showed up to do their admission, but I would tell them, I hope it never gets to the point that you have to call this line. If you have any concerns, call the office, call me, give us the opportunity to fix it. We do not want you to think you've got to go outside this agency, because we want to make you happy and do what you need to have done. So give them that information, but express to them that it is a last resort and give you an opportunity to fix any problems. And then, as far as communication, with me talking about problems that could come up, is your caregiver from your agency communicating well with you as an agency and the caregiver? Are they letting the caregiver know, say if there's some food in the house, that if they cooked bacon this morning and it was the last bacon, they should be letting the caregiver know or the client so that they can replenish their supply. As far as anything that goes wrong with that client, I used to issue a list of things, if the client, if their status changes, because those aides know those clients very well. If they know that every day they come in and Miss Jones is already sitting up in the chair and there's certain things that she does, there's a certain way that she moves, they know that. So if there's a status change, immediately they're one of the first ones to know, or the family, but the family may have gotten up, gone to work, and they didn't know she was feeling bad that day. So make sure they communicate those changes to you. You can give them a list of things that you would like to know, but that's something that they need to be evaluated on. Your job description is key. Every one of your employees, from the agency director down to your administrative person, they should have a job description, and that's part of your DHSR rules. And for in-home aides, it's that they can help with exercises, provide or assist with ADLs. This is for an in-home aide. Assist the client with self-administration of medications. And that means get the water for them, put the medications within reach. But I used to tell my clients and aides this same thing. They cannot go inside your prescription bottle. That's what I would say. They are not trained, so they cannot open that prescription bottle up and take a pill out, because that is not something they're trained to do. So make sure that's clarified. Are they performing the ADLs that are essential to the client's care at home? So when the care plan is written, the nurse should indicate which task the client really needs help with. So you want to evaluate that. And then I just talked about recording and reporting changes in the client's condition back to the office and to the nurse. And I also put this on my clients too. I would say to them, if something goes wrong here at your house, I am not here. So I'm counting on you to let me know. I would even tell them that as far as the aide's paperwork. I would say, if there is something in this paperwork that is incorrect, that did not happen, you need to call and let me know, because if you put your signature there saying that you validate that these tasks were completed, I'm going to believe it. So I would put it on the client, and I said, you are my second set of eyes, because we are here to do the right thing by you and for you. And so I need you to call me. And sometimes I would have a client call and they'd say, well, she's kind of been late every day that she's been here, but it's been like 2 weeks. And I say, we can start to work on that now, but I did not know. So once you tell me, I can work on it, and then we go from there. Your evaluations could be reviewed in a number of ways. Of course, if DHSR comes out for a survey, and DHSR is the Department of Health Services Regulation. Those are the individuals that will give you your license to be a home care agency. That's who you will communicate with, the Greta Hills, those people. That is the department. It's under the Department of Health and Human Services, but that's who they work for. And that is something you should be familiar with. If they come out for a survey, they will look at your employees and they're going to look at everything in there, their application. They're going to see if they were hired in March of 2021. Well, probably March of 2022, they should have had an evaluation. And I don't think they're sticklers, and I didn't really put pressure on myself. If it was maybe a couple of weeks late, I didn't worry about that. I just made sure that I got it done within that month for sure. And then I had a case where one of my employees was hurt on the job. This lady was an ideal employee. I mean, she went to work on time and she had a total care client. She was on the nurse aid registry, and I never let her know when I was coming by to visit for supervisory visits. Every time I went, that client was clean, well fed, the house was together. I mean, this lady was just excellent. But one day she went into work and the client could not really assist her at all with moving. And so she hurt something in her arm. And of course, you know, we're all aging. She was a little bit older because she worked for me a long time. I'm thinking 8 or 9 years. So she hurt her arm and she had to go out on workers' compensation. Now, let me just say something about that. Your employees should be W-2 employees, which means you will have to have workers' compensation insurance if you have more than 3 employees. So I'll just say that. So after this lady got hurt, she was off work and I had the workers' compensation, and I was paying a whole lot at that time because my payroll was really, really high. But my insurance company chose to fight her and they didn't want to pay the workers' compensation. So she had to get a lawyer and we all went to court. I was not in agreement with it. I knew she was a good employee. She had done everything she was supposed to do. And I did not feel like she wasn't being truthful. So we went downtown and went to the courthouse, and we were in this big conference room with a judge. My insurance agent was there and her lawyer was there. The attorney for my insurance company was there. So they had told me to bring all these documents. And one of the things they wanted to see was her evaluations. Now, what if I had not had those, but I had evaluated her every year? Her evaluations were good. And so they had gone through all of that. And I think I really shocked my insurance company because when the judge asked me, what did I think of the case? And I said, well, she was an excellent employee. She did everything she was supposed to do. And then I said, and for the amount of money that I've been paying in workers' compensation insurance for the last 10 or 11 years with no cases, I feel like that she should be compensated. And the judge had to he just looked at me like he couldn't believe I said that. And he almost laughed, but I stood up for her because I had paid hundreds of thousands of dollars over that time period. And I didn't think she should be treated that way. She was compensated. It wasn't a whole lot, but she did get that. So just to say to you all, those evaluations could be looked at any time, especially if someone gets hurt. Something could happen in a client's home and say a complaint might come in. Of course, when DHSR comes in or whoever's reviewing the complaint, they're going to look at those evaluations. So when you do the employee evaluation, make sure that it includes the time period that it covers. If it's from March to March, make sure you indicate that on the sheet, because everything we do in home care is by time, the day. So just make sure that's indicated someplace. The specific accomplishments that person things that they may have accomplished. Some of the things I used to highlight is I had a couple of ladies that worked for me. I could send them anywhere, no matter how bad the client's environment was. they would go and give it a try. And so I always highlighted that because I could call them and I'd say, well, it's not an ideal situation, but I really need your help. And they would always do it. So I highlighted that as an accomplishment, that they would go there and do a good job. And then there are any new skills. Sometimes you may have a client that now needs a Hoyer lift, and most of the time the PT individuals will teach them how to use that. So if they learned how to use a Hoyer lift or something during that period, or how to put TED hose on, if you taught them how to do that, that's a good thing to highlight. And then if there's areas for improvement, say being late sometimes, or absenteeism, whatever that is, hopefully you're addressing those things all along. You're talking to them about whatever things need to be improved, but you can put it on their evaluation and note it at least. And then have a space for that employee to provide input. Maybe they can write something like they agree or don't agree or whatever, and that they acknowledge it with a signature. Those are just some high points that I think you should make sure you have. And then once again, I just like to remind you all that I am happy to provide this information for you. But before you change anything in your business, any of your rules, regulations, your processes, make sure that you go directly to the agency that has you doing whatever it is that you do. Make sure you go to them and verify that you need to make that change. Don't just make a change based on what I've told you. My information is good, but I want you to be sure that you double check with your regulatory agency before you make a major change in your operations. So that's what I had for you all today. And now I'm going to open the floor up for questions. If there are any questions related to what I talk to you all about today first, and then we'll take questions on other things if there's something else. Great. Okay, there's no questions today. Brandon, did you have a question? Did you have a question, Brenda? Okay.
No, I accidentally came off mute. I'm sorry, Ms. Grant. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question. It's kind of off topic, but it's on topic. Are there any grants that are available for home health agencies?
As far as grants specifically for home care, it would probably be grants for businesses in general. But let me say this, you all know I am also a SCORE volunteer, and that is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. We're under the SBA, and we do free business counseling. And so anytime you talk about a grant, you're pretty much talking about a loan, even though you don't pay a grant back, but the way that you acquire it. Even if you go for a grant, you need a good business plan to show what you're going to do with that money, how you're going to use it in your agency, how it's going to lift you up and keep you going. So, Davita, I cannot specifically say a specific grant for home care, but it would be a grant for business. There are plenty of those out there now, and I work with clients every day in SCORE to help them to put together a good business plan that they could present anywhere and show that individual that's going to hand you $10,000, $15,000, whatever it is that they're giving you, that you're going to use that to further your business, that you'll hold your business up and make sure that business sustains itself and grows.
So I do have a thorough business plan. How would I submit that? I would reach out to SCORE.
Well, you don't need to, if you do have one or you need one.
Yes, I already have one.
Okay, well, SCORE does not provide grants. I would say that you probably should go to the hub office, historically underutilized businesses. There's that here in the state, and you may want to get hub certified. There's money there from the state and different areas. There's some, I think the city of Raleigh has money for female businesses or underutilized businesses. So there's plenty of money out there if you can represent your business and let them know that you will use that money.
Okay, thank you. That helps a lot. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anyone want to add to that? Has anyone had any experience with it? Okay. Are there any other questions? Paris?
I was gonna just recommend, I was told about the Hello Alice grant, and then I know Verizon are doing some business ones too for profit. You want to check those out too.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. But have all of your paperwork in order. And I will say to you all, I see a lot, because I do consult with home care agencies. I see a lot of agency owners come to me and they don't have a business plan. A business plan is so important in home care. When I started my business, I spent 4 months developing my business plan, because I knew that this business had a lot of moving parts. You've got employment, you've just got to manage clients, employees. There's so much that was going on, and I needed to know that I could hang in there long enough to make the business successful. When I did that business plan, I saw that I would have to keep my day job, which was an RN working at night. I may have to keep that job for 18 months before I could transition into my business full time. I was able to do it in 12 months, but I went in prepared so that in 6 months, when the money wasn't there for me to quit my job, I wasn't discouraged, because I knew what I had signed up for. I knew how many employees I needed or could hire in the first year. Because I came into my business underutilized, money-wise, I could not hire 10 people the first month, because then I would not have been able to pay them. So I set up a plan where I knew I could probably hire 2 people each month until the money really built up, and then I could hire whomever I wanted to. But I couldn't get a payroll of $10,000, and I didn't have that money in the bank. So that's the thing that you learn when you put that business plan together. You know what you're signing up for. Home care is very lucrative. You can make some really good money in home care, but you got to be on it. You got to manage those clients and employees, and they work together, and they have to match. And when they don't match, you've got to change it. So there's a lot that's going on there. And I was very, very busy. But then when I would look at the amount of money that I was making, I would be like, I can't do that really anywhere else. So that would keep me going. But if you make this thing work, it will really work for you as far as income. Any other questions?
I have a question on the assessment. An RN normally is supposed to do the admission. Can you have an LPN do admissions and then supervised by an RN in the background when you admit your clients into the business?
In the state of North Carolina, in home care, there is no role for an LPN. The only thing she can do is provide care. She cannot do an assessment, because the assessment, she has to be supervised. So even if the RN is there, what they did in North Carolina is there is no role for her as far as assessments or any of that stuff. Now, if it is a companion sitter agency only, she could probably be the service supervisor, because that person is not supervising the type of care that an RN would supervise. So do not use that LPN for assessments or even the supervisory visit. That has to be done by an RN.
I had a question, Patty, around nursing as well, or really it's more around mileage and reimbursement for travel. As far as I understand it, let's say just we have a caregiver goes to the client's house, they stay there all day, they go home, they don't do anything else, then there's no reimbursement for their time or mileage needed. I guess, is that your understanding as well?
That is true.
Okay.
But I'll say you all, sometimes you have an aide to go to the first house, then she travels to the next house for X number of hours. You're supposed to pay mileage for that in between, not to work and home, as Frank just said, but that mileage where they travel to different clients, you're supposed to pay mileage for that. Now, the aide is going to have to keep track of that and let you know what that is. And that's just standard labor stuff. That's not anything that has to do with your DHSR license, but that's just labor laws and HR.
Right.
So
The reason I'm asking is we had a nurse actually join, and she was saying that at her previous company, she was paid from, now granted, she might go to a couple of different places, and I agree with what you said. I understand that maybe is a better way of saying it, and so I was trying to figure out if is there, and she said that's the way it was at the last company she worked for.
they paid her mileage for everything, Frank, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, as soon as she left her house.
And you can do that. It's just, if you would like to do that, then you can pay it. When I had my nurses working for me, I gave them a flat rate for an admission, a flat rate for supervisory visits, and I did not pay mileage, and that was okay with them. So it's what you negotiate with them. So Frank, being that she has past experience, if that's what she's requiring to work, you may have to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
But I never had a lot of trouble with mileage. But with gas, gas prices weren't where they are today either. So I actually sold my agency in 2018. So I didn't have to face many of the things that you all are facing now, the pandemic, none of that. And it was a tough business then. So I can imagine that it's a lot tougher now. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, it was good seeing you all this month. Thank you all for coming. I will notify you all next month, as I did this time when we have the meeting. If there are other individuals that you know that would benefit from this call, please let them know. We'll be glad to have them. And we do have a YouTube channel. When I send you all emails, if you look at the bottom in my signature line, I have a link down there that says meeting videos, where you can click it and it'll take you to YouTube. So that's where the videos are. It's right in my signature line that you can click and go there. But it's under Home Care Resources now on YouTube. All right, you all have a great month, and I'll get in touch with you all next month. You all know how to get in touch with me. If you need me, just send me an email or call me. Thank you all so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Patty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.